breaking news has shaken the conservative movement to its very core. On what should have been just another campus speaking event, a single gunshot silenced one of America's most outspoken conservative activists. Charlie Kirk, a man who built his career challenging narratives, sparking debates, and leading a national movement, was assassinated before a live audience at Utah Valley University. The alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, a 27-year-old man, unknown to most of the public until now, but suddenly thrust into the spotlight as federal investigators unravel a disturbing web of digital communications, handwritten messages, and a trail that points directly to him. But this isn't just another crime story. This is a story of ideology, of family, of silence, and of betrayal. What drove Robinson to target Kirk? How did the FBI zero in on him so quickly? And why were chilling messages etched onto bullets, waiting to be found in the aftermath? Tonight we go inside the Robinson case, the investigation, the arrest, the unanswered questions, and the final words that Charlie Kirk spoke only moments before his life was cut short. This is more than just a crime story. It's a reminder of how quickly words can turn into weapons, how silence can hide secrets, and how one act of violence can shake a nation. But the questions remain: what truly motivated Tyler Robinson? Was this political, personal, or something even darker? I want to hear from you. What do you think lies at the heart of this case? Drop your thoughts in the comments, respectfully, because your voice matters in this conversation. If you found this deep dive valuable, hit that like button to keep this story alive, and share it so others can see the full picture. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because this case is far from over, and we'll be here uncovering every new detail as it unfolds. It was Wednesday evening at Utah Valley University. The auditorium was packed with students, faculty, and community members. Some came to hear words of encouragement, others came to challenge the speaker. And at the center of it all was Charlie Kirk standing at a podium, microphone in hand, ready for questions. The atmosphere was tense but charged. For years, Kirk had been known as a lightning rod for controversy. That night was no different. One student stepped up to the microphone with a question that cut directly into one of the most divisive debates in America today. Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? Kirk didn't hesitate. His answer was sharp, simple, and direct: too many. The student pressed further. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Kirk paused for only a moment before replying, counting or not counting gang violence. And then, before anyone could process his words, before anyone could laugh, cheer, or push back, a single deafening crack shattered the air. A gunshot. Charlie Kirk's body collapsed on stage, panic erupted instantly. Students screamed and rushed toward the exits. Chairs overturned, phones dropped, and a once-controlled event dissolved into pure chaos. Campus security moved in, first responders rushed toward the stage, and within minutes, the university went into full lockdown. Sirens blared across campus as emergency alerts buzzed across thousands of cell phones. But for Charlie Kirk, it was already too late. That one bullet had ended his life in front of hundreds of witnesses, and the ripple effect would soon reach the entire nation. In the hours after the shooting, the FBI moved quickly. Surveillance footage from the university and nearby streets showed a figure moving across the rooftop of a nearby building, rifle in hand. The images were grainy but clear enough for the agency to release them nationwide. This was their person of interest. The photos spread rapidly across news outlets and social media. Within hours, they reached a man sitting in his own living room, the father of Tyler Robinson. According to the Associated Press, when Robinson's father saw the images, his heart sank. He immediately recognized the posture, the face, the unmistakable features of his own son. What he did next may have changed the course of the investigation. He picked up the phone and urged his son to do what was right: turn yourself in. But at first, Tyler refused. He denied it, resisted, and pushed back against the reality of what his father was saying. For law enforcement, this was a critical moment. They had a suspect identified, but he wasn't yet in custody. Hours later, whether out of guilt, fear, or pressure from his family, Robinson changed his mind. He surrendered himself to the FBI. The contrast is chilling. On one side, a father faced with an unbearable truth, recognizing his own child as the alleged assassin. On the other, a son accused of carrying out an unthinkable act of political violence. It was the father's courage to speak up, to acknowledge what he saw in those surveillance images, that gave investigators the confirmation they needed. Tyler Robinson was no longer just a suspect, he was the suspect. As details began to surface, the picture of Tyler Robinson's life became more complex. In an exclusive report by Brooke Singman for Fox Digital, sources revealed that Robinson had been living with a transgender partner. Unlike Robinson, however, this individual quickly cooperated with the FBI. Investigators soon discovered a series of texts and private communications exchanged between Robinson and the partner in the days leading up to the shooting. These weren't vague or cryptic, they were direct, incriminating, and left little doubt in the minds of federal authorities. It was the digital trail that, according to sources, solidified Robinson as the shooter. This revelation underscores a powerful reality of modern investigations. In today's world, crimes don't just happen in the physical realm. They leave behind digital fingerprints, text messages, emails, encrypted chats, location data, each one as damning as the weapon left at the scene. And in Robinson's case, his own conversations betrayed him. But what do we make of the partner's role? On one side, their cooperation may have provided investigators with the breakthrough they needed. On the other, it raises haunting questions. Did they know what Robinson was planning? Were there warning signs? Or were they just as shocked as the rest of the country when the trigger was pulled? For the FBI, those answers remain crucial. For the public, this detail paints Robinson not as a lone wolf cut off from the world, but as someone embedded in a personal life, one that would ultimately collide with one of the most shocking political assassinations in recent history. As agents combed the area surrounding the university, their search quickly uncovered the murder weapon, a high-powered rifle abandoned near a wooded patch not far from campus. But what investigators found alongside it was even more disturbing: a stash of ammunition, each bullet etched with chilling handwritten messages. These weren't random scrawls, they were deliberate. Words and phrases carved into the metal, giving voice to the shooter's twisted thoughts. At a press conference, Utah Governor Spencer Cox shared some of the details publicly. He described the writings as deeply troubling phrases that suggested anger, resentment, and perhaps a desire to send a message through violence. But what exactly did those messages mean? Were they targeted at Charlie Kirk personally, a symbolic strike against conservative values? Were they the ramblings of a deeply unstable mind, seeking recognition in the most horrifying way possible? Or were they meant to immortalize the shooter's ideology, carved into steel as a dark manifesto? The symbolism is hard to ignore. A bullet is already a message of violence, but to write words upon it transforms it into something even more sinister. It suggests intent, it suggests planning, it suggests appelling. It suggests a killer who wanted his motives to be remembered long after the smoke cleared. For investigators, these bullets may hold the key to understanding the why behind the assassination. For the public, they raise a haunting reality: when a message is written on a weapon, the line between crime and statement becomes terrifyingly thin. By the time Tyler Robinson was in federal custody, investigators had the rifle, the bullets, the surveillance footage, and the digital communications. But one thing they didn't have was his cooperation. Sources close to the investigation confirm that Robinson has refused to answer questions. He has not explained his actions, not given investigators a motive, and not responded to repeated interrogation attempts. Silence has become his defense. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice is weighing how to prosecute this unprecedented crime. Attorney General Pam Bondi has confirmed that federal charges are on the table, though the exact classification remains undecided. Could Robinson face charges of domestic terrorism? That would require prosecutors to prove that his act was intended to intimidate or coerce a population, or influence government policy through violence. Could it be prosecuted as a hate crime? That would depend on whether investigators can show that Robinson's attack was motivated by bias, ideology, or identity-based hatred. Or could this be treated as what it appears on the surface: a targeted political assassination designed to eliminate one of the country's most high-profile conservative voices? Each of these paths carries weight. Each carries political consequences. And each has the potential to make Robinson's trial one of the most closely watched legal battles in years. The courtroom may soon become the stage where not just Robinson, but the nation itself, confronts the meaning of his actions. And in that arena, the law, politics, and public opinion are all set to collide in a way few cases ever have. The assassination of Charlie Kirk sent shockwaves far beyond the walls of Utah Valley University. It wasn't just the murder of a man, it was the silencing of a political voice at the height of his influence. Within hours, news outlets across the spectrum lit up with breaking banners. On conservative platforms, grief and outrage poured in. Kirk's supporters called him a martyr, a victim of the growing hostility faced by outspoken voices on the right. Vigils were organized, tributes flowed online, and questions about political violence became louder than ever. On the other side, critics wrestled with how to respond. Some condemned the killing outright, while others highlighted the divisive nature of Kirk's rhetoric. Social media became a battlefield of clashing narratives. Was this the act of a lone disturbed individual, or was it the inevitable result of an increasingly toxic political climate? On campuses across the country, student groups debated, protested, and clashed over the meaning of Kirk's assassination. For some, it became a rallying cry for free speech. For others, a reminder of the dangers of extreme rhetoric. But the impact didn't stop there. Politicians weighed in, governors released statements, and national figures used the tragedy to push their own agendas. And as emotions boiled over, one truth became unavoidable. The killing of Charlie Kirk had become more than just a crime, it had become a symbol. When political violence strikes, it doesn't just take a life, it leaves a scar on democracy itself. Even with Robinson in custody, even with the rifle and the damning evidence, the one question that hangs heavy over this case is the same one every investigator, journalist, and citizen is asking: why? Why did Tyler Robinson do it? Was this a carefully calculated act of political violence, aimed at silencing one of the most prominent conservative activists in America? Or was it something far more personal, resentment boiling over, perhaps fueled by anger, rejection, or fractured relationships? Law enforcement officials have hinted at several possibilities. One theory suggests that Robinson's writings on the bullets point to ideology, that the assassination was meant as a symbolic strike, a message written in gunpowder and steel. Another theory points to his online life, where investigators believe he may have consumed extremist rhetoric, echo chambers that thrive on division and rage. But there is also the possibility that this wasn't about politics at all. Some analysts warn that Robinson's silence, his refusal to cooperate, may point to a fractured state of mind. Mental instability, obsession, or the belief that by staying silent he controls the narrative. For his family, the questions are even more painful. How could the boy his father once raised, the same father who turned him in after seeing those surveillance photos, become the man accused of pulling the trigger? For the FBI, motive is more than just curiosity. It determines how the case will be prosecuted, whether the charges will fall under terrorism, hate crime statutes, or assassination. And for the public, motive shapes memory. Was Charlie Kirk killed because of what he represented? Or simply because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, standing in the sights of a deeply broken man? The truth may remain buried in Robinson's silence. And until it comes to light, the assassination of Charlie Kirk will stand not only as a crime, but as one of the most haunting mysteries of our time. The assassination of Charlie Kirk is more than a headline. It is a reminder of how fragile public life can be, how one moment of speaking, debating, answering questions can be shattered in an instant by violence. A father turned in his son. A community was thrown into chaos. A movement lost its leader, and a nation was left to wrestle with the silence of a man who refuses to explain why. This case is not over. In fact, it's only just beginning. The courtroom will soon decide how Tyler Robinson is judged by the law. But history and the public will decide how this assassination is remembered, and so the questions remain. Was this the act of ideology, a twisted form of political vengeance, or was it the desperate cry of a disturbed individual? What do you believe? What do you think truly drove Robinson to pull the trigger that afternoon?